right. And welcome back, everyone, to Strange Planet Podcast. And my God, has it been a very interesting week this week. I guess probably the biggest news update is the fact that Joe Biden had finally stepped down, and now Kamala Harris is the new Democratic nominee that's going to be running more than likely against Donald Trump for the president of the United States coming this November. What do you guys think about this before I announce anything else?
Well, she's not quite the nominee yet. She is the presumptive Democratic nominee. We still have to have the convention and the official vote, but
Right.
she has secured enough votes to secure the nomination from all the delegates that are attending. So it's weird because the Democratic Party is actually a mix of democracy and also sort of like, entrenched party hierarchy. So you might have heard of super delegates, and super delegates are like, delegates that are just there named by the party. So you'll have people like Bill Clinton and Hillary, even though they're not in an elected office, pretty sure they're going to be super delegates that have votes in the party just because they're important. Obama is probably a super delegate as well. But basically, they're folks that, back in 2008, if you remember, when Hillary and Obama were running against each other, and Hillary had the advantage in terms of super delegates because she was, the establishment candidate and, had Clinton, the Clinton name and everything. And Obama started winning primaries. So those are pledged delegates, delegates that, if you win the state, you get to send your delegates to the convention. So, the super delegates started to switch over from Obama to Clinton from Clinton to Obama once they saw that Obama could actually win.
Right.
And so that was like a really like controversial thing there. Now, this time around, you have, Kamala Harris, who Joe Biden already won pledged delegates. So those delegates, if a candidate drops out of the race, a candidate will release those delegates, and those delegates can vote for whoever they want. And Kamala Harris has secured enough commitments from the delegates that are outstanding to secure the nomination. So it looks like she's going to be a lock. And yeah, like I'm excited about this election. I think it really reinvigorated the party. We had very bad press in terms of Democrats, first with the disastrous debate. What was that, like a month ago or so? And just like it was relentless, like reporting on Joe Biden's age and his lack of attention to things. And it was really unfortunate. And there was no way to reverse that story. The only way that slowed down is when Donald Trump held his convention. And that was like another like,
oh God,
Trump thing. And like, he had the assassination attempt. And so you had, a lot of sympathy for Donald Trump as well. And so, everything was going in the Republicans' favor. And there was really nothing the Democrats could do to reverse this until Joe Biden did what I think is the patriotic thing, the thing that not only the Democratic Party needed, but the thing that our country needed at this point in time, which was for him to step aside and say it's time for a younger generation to take the torch and run with it.
Right.
So, I'm excited to see, what's going to happen now that this election has been reset and essentially we're tied, and going forward, it's going to be a good run to November.
I 100% agree. And to be honest with you, I think that this was not only a very smart move in how they did it, but if you think about now that the switch was done after the RNC, that convention there, it was actually, I felt like that was genius in a sense because the entire convention was aimed at Joe Biden, but now Joe Biden isn't running for president anymore. You see what I'm saying? So like there's only a few months until the election. So there's only so much they can really do to attack her at this point.
Not only that, but all of their campaign research, opposition research that the Trump campaign did was on primarily Joe Biden. Sure, I'm sure they researched Kamala and whatever, but the focus, everything that they poured into in terms of speeches, in terms of talking points, Their
Right.
whole strategy was against Joe Biden. Now they have to retool it pretty quickly for Kamala Harris.
And
So
the one thing I
it's going
will
to be
say is that I think we're going to see. I mean, it should happen when the debates arrive. But as far as the next debate goes with Harris against Trump, she's going to freaking wipe the floor with him, I think, to be honest. She ain't going to let him bullshit his way out of anything. You know what I mean? So I feel like having her there is it would be great for the debate. She's going to call this crap like Joe should have. I mean, he kind of did a little bit, but we all know he could have done a better job. You know what I mean? But that's in the past now. That's not really a big deal. But Mark, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, bringing it back to the debate, because that definitely was a point where we're all looking at the situation like maybe this isn't where we should go with this. I mean, that's not our decision to make. It was Joe Biden's, and I'm actually glad he did make that decision.
Right,
I mean, you saw that Joe Biden was starting to lose a step. So not that he couldn't have done it, but like, he made the choice to step aside, let somebody else take the reins, and this gives him more time with his family, however much time he has left. So that's good for him. Kamala Harris, I'm interested to see where this goes because you have the prosecutor versus the felon. That's an interesting setup to get going there with that. That's definitely for drama. I would not be surprised if we get a curveball from the Democratic convention, but Kamala Harris looks like she's going to be the one to go. So I mean, full steam ahead with her. It's kind of funny, not funny, but it's kind of awkward how it's almost like, oh yeah, the first female president by default, almost. You know what I'm saying? Like didn't run her own campaign and fight through the Democrats to get through like Hillary did. I mean, Hillary was the first female not nominee because she didn't go through, right? You wouldn't call her a nominee.
She was the first female nominee of a major Democratic party.
Okay, so yeah, she was the first in that respect.
Or of a major political party, excuse me.
So yeah, so Kamala Harris can be a first female president. That would be very interesting. I mean, I don't know much about her. I mean, other than the fact that what her credentials are, from being a prosecutor to being governor of California to moving into.
No, she was never governor.
Yeah,
she was the
governor.
senator.
Oh, she was a senator. But yeah, she still was involved in politics in California and then moved around, right. Getting further up the line as she was going. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where this goes. I do believe though that he will punk out and he will not debate her because he knows he's going to lose his shirt. So he's going to find every little which way. I mean, they tried everything out of the gate. As soon as she was nominated, we're gonna impeach her. We're gonna sue her. We're gonna sue the Democrats. We're gonna they tried to pull all the stops right away. And so far, I don't know what's they're looking at. I believe most of it's shut down. But
actually, that's never happened in history, right? Where there was never a debate. So like, say Trump tries to back out of
debates. So before they've always had presidential sort of debates and political debates. Whether there were televised debates, those happened. I think the first one was Kennedy Nixon. That was one of the first, if not the first.
Oh my God.
We've already had one debate. Kamala will. I think Trump will give her at least one debate. He might not show up for the second. He might say that it's so biased, and yes, the media is so biased against him.
Right, the victim mentality.
He's not gonna show up to the next debate.
I disagree.
But I think he'll show up to one.
No, I disagree. I think he's gonna push out.
I think you're right. I think he might try to, but I don't know if he's gonna, because that's not gonna reflect the party.
He's a narcissist.
That he's like, there was already a statement put out where he was like, the Democratic DOJ, this, that, the other thing, and then wipe all the stuff. I mean, it was to the point like he definitely wanted to find an excuse not to do it.
Sure, but he is a narcissist, and I think he genuinely believes that he's
that's
more
why you have to back him
Harris.
into a corner with it. Because if you back him into a corner with it, you have no choice than to do it. So I mean, we'll see what happens. Because
I seriously think thinks he is capable of taking her on, and he will find out. I think pretty swiftly in the first few minutes of the debate.
The first 10 minutes probably.
It's a real Elliott is a real opponent. Now, Hillary, did a very good job against him. She wiped the floor with him. People don't remember that.
That's
Mm.
true.
He wiped the floor with Donald Trump and his lies. Donald's not as sharp
Oh my
anymore as
God.
he used to be. And Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. So she is used to, listening. She's very, like, to be a prosecutor, you have to be very perceptive and think on your feet in terms of, what an opponent can argue, what a witness says. Like, she will be on point to respond in real time with an
Wow.
argument. Like,
It's like a
that's
political
what a
rap battle.
prosecutor does.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's what a prosecutor does, and that's why if they're a career prosecutor, and you're successful, you have to be able to think on your feet like that. And she is going to
And
be able
quick
to
too.
Yeah, I don't.
take Donald Trump's lies and just dispel them and to go on the attack against them. That's the thing that Joe Biden couldn't do. Like, sure, he could say, "Oh yes, those are lies," but he couldn't, like,
But right,
litigate that debate, point by point.
his power, his like superpower when he debated him in the last presidential election, where supposedly the orange one thought he won. He was almost like whatever Donald Trump said, just like he wouldn't let him bother him. Because you see some other, like when the Republican debates go on, and he's involved, like he'll say something about everyone there, and they all seem to kind of like go, Joe Biden just stood there and took it, threw a couple of his out, and I guess that's why we were behind him the first time. But like, yeah, no, he's definitely. It's not so much that he couldn't do it this time. It's just that you saw it in him. He was tired. He was just trying to get his brain into the right mode, and he choked at the end of time. At the end of it, and it was terrible to say. I hate to say it, as see your nominee like come to the moment and miss.
And that's
So,
what
I
we
mean,
didn't want to happen come November,
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, we were still
fact
riding
that
the
he would-
coattails that he could do it, but
Yeah, that's the way I feel too, though. Can he do the job? 110%. I think he could do the
yeah,
job.
I
Yeah.
think in
But-
those moments he wasn't cognitively there, and that happens to everyone. Everyone loses their train of thought. Everyone
Oh, yeah.
misspeaks. Joe
absolutely.
Biden has a stuttering problem. But yes, he's also getting older, and so those things might happen a little more often. Is he capable of running the country? Sure. He has a moral compass. He's very knowledgeable about the issues. He obviously studies and keeps abreast of all the issues that are going on, both domestically and internationally. He has a good command of that. And so whether he's able to articulate that in real time to the extent that we expect a president to be able to, that's another story.
Right.
And
right.
that's more of a sort of, political and debate type thing. As far as an executive and an administrator, I think, he's perfectly capable of doing the job, especially, through the end of the term. But this is also an election, and you have to be able to project your ideas and your vision for the country. And
Yeah.
if you do that effectively while pushing back against the opponent's vision for the country, then you are, not doing as good a job as you could do, and you're putting sort of the country at risk. And I think Joe Biden realized that, after talking to, a number of donors and elected officials and friends and family. I think he came to realize that, his inability to carry the message effectively puts the country at risk relative to someone else who can do.
I hear that. And one thing I will say about Kamala that I'm loving, and I'm hoping this continues throughout now till November, and then it won't matter, I guess, after that, especially if she wins. But she's bringing up a lot of that Project 2025 massacre. You know what I mean? And like, I'm not saying Joe didn't, but like, I don't remember him bringing it up as much as she has. So I feel like that's something that's a big talking point, because like, God forbid this does go the other way. That is a really fascist project there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this country hasn't seen that level of craziness. So we, need to all group up, and we need to stand behind, if Harris is in the end, which is looking like, the Democratic nominee, then we got to stand behind her and make sure that shit doesn't happen. Cause like, it could, you think it's bad now, it could get worse. It could always get worse, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, to
so
give Joe Biden an out, he really didn't have much time to say anything about it before he, decided he was going to quit, because it really didn't pop up. I mean, people knew about it, but people didn't really know about it like they do now until like after, I think, the debate or
mm,
around the time of, because we didn't know that much about it at that point. So it was once
that's
we heard
true.
about it and like, what is this about? And then we heard, a couple of the snippets like, oh, this doesn't seem good. Now that we got into it and, I did our research and what we know about it so far, because it's just the highlighted points is what I've seen. And
Right,
the
right.
in-depth stuff is usually where the details of the devil are. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love religion. I'm Christian, mostly Lutheran, so it's still Christianity, but it's a little looser version than Catholic. But I give all the religions the freedom to worship here too, because that's what we cross the sea for, right? Free, religious freedom and freedom to be able to pursue
Some
your
of
life
us.
as you want. Yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, but I'm just saying, but that's still what the country was supposed to be about, pursuing your dreams and everything, and having the freedom to do so.
Right,
If
not
they,
shoving it down a throat.
yeah, if they implement this 2025, whatever, it's going to turn. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's going to turn America into a Christian state, and not into a Christian state like "I love you, you love me, we all love the Lord, and we worship the Lord together." No, it's going to be like Crusades,
Fire
fucking
and
the Spanish
brimstone.
Inquisition and shit like that. It's going to be bad,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it'll bring down the image of Christianity, but it's still a religion. I do not think. I mean, I believe the forefathers were correct in separating church and state, because they knew what the recipe was when you mix those two together. Now that we're in a civilized world where we're not chopping people's heads off for stealing, we could have conversations and get into the legalities of it all, and based on moralities, decide whether you're guilty and need to be punished, or you're innocent enough to give a slap on the wrist and don't do it again.
Mm,
So, I mean, doing this will set us backwards to the
yeah,
point
pretty
that
much.
we're they're gonna it not only will be a Christian state, it'll make all the religions like almost like, yeah, you need to get out of here.
Yeah, like it don't matter.
And
Yeah, you know?
yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? This is
Yeah,
supposed to be a country where everybody can worship their own religion. You don't just make one set of rules based on
I hear
religious
you there.
feelings. It's supposed to be, the majority ideals of what morality is. Is it good to kill somebody? Most of us would say no. I mean, when you're in war, it's a different story, but most of us would say no. And the ones that do say yes, usually,
Or in
oh,
a ward
need.
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
I'm
or a
saying
penitentiary.
that's what I mean by like a collective, morality of what we all as human beings deem what could be bad and what could be good. I mean, granted, we write those down, we put those into laws. It's been almost what 200, 300 years, not 300, almost 200 plus years of us doing this in this country. I think we have a good settle on it. Let's not start going backwards.
I hear you.
I
And
mean,
adding to that, I would actually say like, because it seems like they want to, like you said, make it predominantly like a Christian nation, or I mean, Catholic nation.
well, I don't know
My
if that's what they want to do or if they're using that as the
That's what it
cover for
seemed.
all this other bullshit.
But my question, my problem with that is this is a country made up of the entire world. We have
Yeah.
Muslims here, we have Buddhists here, we have Jewish people here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you can't do
Atheists.
that, in my opinion. That's just not right. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
then it's
Well,
forcing them.
the thing
You know what I mean? Like it's
is
just
it's a way to get people animated about something.
right.
And so if you can leverage that as, someone who, if you're a billionaire and you have a certain legislative agenda, if you can marry that with people who are passionate about certain religious convictions, such as abortion and things of that nature, anti-LGBTQ,
Mm,
if you can marry that together with political candidates who will also give tax breaks to the rich, then you know what? You're going to push that, and you're going to use those sort of wedge issues, those religious wedge issues, to, create a Trojan horse for your billionaire favorable policies. The billionaires, trust me, they don't care about the religious shit.
no.
Most of them,
Yeah.
they don't care about that.
They
what
think
they
they're
want
God already.
in their tax breaks and their favorable regulations or no regulations. There's Supreme Court justices that will rule in their favor when it comes down to it. The fact that they will also, abortion's not going to affect them.
Of course not.
If you're a billionaire and you need, to pay for an abortion for someone, you'll just fly them wherever and
Yeah,
have
right.
your own
And just it is what it
special
is.
doctor, and they don't give a fuck. So it's these wedge issues that they use to sort of build their own platform so that they can get elected and get their policies done. But it's such a cynical thing to do.
Right, right. Actually, speaking of billionaires, I don't know if you heard, I'm still checking to find out how true this is, but I'm pretty sure it actually is. But Musk apparently is not sending the 45 million a month to the Trump campaign, apparently. And he claims that he never said that, which I find that also weird, but I still think generally where we
I
stand now,
tend
that's a
not
good
to
thing.
pay too much attention to Elon Musk. I think he
I don't blame
is
you.
a maniac, which is, it's not surprising that he came out in full support of Trump. I'm not surprised.
Right. That's that's shocking.
He's a bigot, and it's birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
Elon Musk actually is a real billionaire, though, unlike Trump, who
That's
his
true.
wealth is kind of questionable.
He's got the credibility for it, at least, right?
No, I mean, he's the richest man in the world.
Right,
So,
right. Even over Bezos too, right?
yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because he'd probably be the
Yeah,
runner.
I mean, Bezos was in the running. He was at one point. He got divorced, and that kind of hurt him a little bit.
That gave him a little thorn to the side, right? But she's been
Bill
doing a lot of
Gates
good stuff
also,
with that too.
yeah,
Speaking of
Bill,
her,
Bill,
yeah, a lot of donations to
so
charities
so
and
is
stuff.
Melinda Gates as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, that'll hurt you.
but yeah,
Um,
oh yeah,
when you lose about 100 billion dollars or what, I don't know how much they settle for, or how much they split for, but yeah, that'll hurt you. That'll set you back.
So from what I understood it, because I saw the clip today, Elon Musk was asked while he was walking through a hallway with a bunch of people, like, "Hey, are you still giving Trump the $45 million a month?" Blah blah blah. And he basically said that I guess the Wall Street Journal made that story up, or the Times made
that's
that
what it
story up.
was. Yep.
But like the person who had the video that I was watching, someone said about, "Oh yeah, something money for Trump," and then Elon Musk said, "Yeah." So I don't know if it was confirmation that he was giving it to him, or if it was just like, yeah, give your $45 billion to Trump. I don't know.
See, that's where
Whatever.
my problem is.
We know that Elon Musk, agreed to the deal to buy Twitter, and then he tried to back out of it, and then it was kind of like forced
on him. Yeah, because he already went like halfway through.
He has to go through,
and then he fired like 2/3 of the fucking company, and then I had to call people back because the people who had to coach the doors, he fired.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be the richest man in the world for very much longer.
That's
Tesla's
possibility
taking
too.
a tanking right now, so.
But see that this whole conversation here, this part of it at least, is why I have a problem with that Citizens United in a sense, because like we're all, I mean, we could all vote, we could all chip in money to campaigns or whatever, but when you're a billionaire, you can obviously put way more than all three of us and 20 others combined. You know what I mean? So like, you don't see how that can sway an election. Or
I mean,
not
of
even
course.
sway, but how it could actually sway or even contribute to the effect of the
of course, but at the same time, there can be other equalizers, especially with technology now, because you can, multiply stories, 100, 1,000, a million-fold using social media, and you don't need very much money. I'm sure these Russian troll farms that pump out misinformation, they have some budget behind them, but they're not, the budgets necessarily of billionaires. They may be, Russian oligarchs funding it, who knows? But, you don't need that much money in order to have, outsized influence with today's technology.
That's true.
So,
But
in terms of like Citizens United, I think, I partially agree with the ruling. Believe it or not, I
I do
don't
find
like
that shocking. I'm
I
not gonna
don't
lie.
like what it means. I don't like what it means. Um, I think it's horrible for our democracy.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
where I was gonna go
But
next.
at the same time, I can understand the notion that, if you have a message that you want to convey, you should not necessarily be limited in terms of, delivering that message to whoever you want. And if it takes place, near an election or not near an election, I mean, I don't think that's. I think it's a lot better. Like, if it's going directly to a candidate, of course you should have, restrictions and everything.
That's what I
But
mean. There's
if
got to
it,
be a limit.
but there are like there's dark money and everything. There are ways around it, and so you know, if you want to make a move, like Citizens United was an organization that collected money and they made a documentary about Hillary. I don't think necessarily that documentary should be prevented from being made, even if it's, you know, kind of technically for electioneering purposes, trying to, you know,
Sway
advance
people or
a
whatever.
message to persuade people in advance of an election.
Right. I can see you there.
At the,
It's the
at the same time,
finances is where my
I don't
problem
think I
is.
don't you know I don't think you should be able to muzzle people that want to talk about, a political candidate in that way. So I can understand, the decision, as much as, it kind of sucks in terms of, money being uh, sort of, you know
A speech. More
power
or
too
less.
too powerful in terms of being able to persuade people. But I think technology also helps, and it can work as an equalizer, or something that brings us closer to equal than, what would otherwise be the case. I don't think that's the only solution, or that shouldn't be, but I think that it is a solution, and it's a partial solution. I think we can take comfort in the fact that, you or I can, multiply our own messages if they resonate with people.
Yeah, like I hear you there. Like with the messages and like the possibly condescending videos, just to maybe sway, try to get voters to see something that maybe they didn't know before. But like I said, I just feel like the whole finance department is why some people, even in this country, might feel like it doesn't matter if they vote or not because it might just be bought. You know what I mean? So like that's I can understand that because there's
Well,
no
I
there's no
mean, they
cap,
better
there's no
vote.
limit.
They better vote, because we
They
currently
better
do have a
fucking vote this
democracy.
time. Yeah.
But if we don't vote, we might not have a democracy next election. Okay,
Yeah, you got that right.
we might not have
Yeah.
one.
It's damn sure.
Yeah, that's big facts right there. This is I know everybody every year, every 4 years rather, they always say, "Oh, this is the most important election." This one really is. This
Yep.
one really is. You know
And
what I
That's
mean?
right. And folks, it's not just the fact that it's going to be Donald Trump as president again. It's the fact that if he does become president again, he's going to have all his cronies in position to make the decisions to bring America down to
Whatever he
having to
wants it to
worship
be.
him as a human being. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's, judges like Clarence Thomas and Aileen Cannon that are just willing to bend over backwards and ignore,
Anything.
common standards of,
Yeah.
what the judicial system is about, and take donations and just decide, oh, hey, I'm going to help this guy out because he got me my job. It's more than just Trump. It's all his sycophants that are now in political positions where they don't belong.
Right.
People
Right.
like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are not politicians, folks.
And
These are
Bobert.
people who are pushing their frigging wrong agendas. I mean, look at the RNC. They are in shambles. They're having their own little civil war between the Republicans and the MAGA Republicans. So again,
Are there any more regular Republicans in the party anymore?
I don't know.
I
That's
don't
a really
know.
good question. Yeah, I think
Yes,
it's
that's a
cult
damn
now.
good question. You know, whoever hasn't sold their soul to the devil, who's still hiding in the shadows of whatever seat is left in the back fucking row, you know, there may be one or two, but like most of them decided, hey, I'm not going to take this, and I'm just going to bounce from the party. And while that helps them, it doesn't help us as a country. We need the adults on the other side of the room too, please.
Right? It really, the whole party had just turned into an entire cult for Trump. That's really what happened here. And they
It
already
really
took
has
away
been,
one
and
right
it's-
from women. And I hate to say it, if he gets in there, he's only going to take more. And that
They've
Project
taken more than just
2025
the
is an
right from
outline.
women. They've taken a few other things that have been like under the cloak of darkness. There was some Chevron law that they got out under the American people, and that one was, from what I read, it's like that's pretty significant of what that one is.
Yeah, it was. So in law, there's a case, the Chevron case, which had a ruling that was known as Chevron deference, which is basically when you have an administration, like an executive branch agency or department that has experts who are career workers there. They spend their entire lives working on this one singular issue or this one area. So they develop an expertise that no one else has. Congress doesn't have it, so they'll pass laws, that are like, pertaining to the department, giving the department authority, but then they grant the agency or department the freedom to make regulations to support that law, right? And to implement that law. So the department or agency just issues regulations, and there's a whole thing with like a public comment, and there's a whole process for passing regulations and putting them into effect. And what Chevron deference said was that we give the agency and its experts the presumption that they have that the rule is valid. They know how to interpret the law that Congress passed for them. So if there's any dispute as to what something in the law means, we defer to the agency, because the agency experts are the ones who work on this their entire lives, and they're able to determine what this means. What the court now said, what the Supreme Court now said, is that, Chevron deference, we don't like that anymore. So basically the court can get to decide that they're the experts, so they have to do like the policy expertise, research, and everything to determine what something in the law means. And that is judicial overreach. They did the same thing in terms of overreaching with respect to the Voting Rights Act and determining, what we as the court get to decide when racism is over and whether or not these voting rights protections are still necessary. Even though Congress itself has said, yes, it's still necessary, almost unanimously, signed by President George W. Bush, and Republicans in Congress. They said, yes, we still need these protections. These places are still racist. And the Supreme Court, because they're so fanatical, said they're fanatically conservative. They said, you know what? We get to decide when racism is over. Not the people through their elected representatives.
Unbelievable. Right?
But we get to decide that these policies are no longer needed. And so, it's another example of judicial overreach. They like to talk about liberals and judicial, legislating from the bench. No, that was exactly what legislating from the bench is. And they do it, and they do it a lot worse than liberals ever have.
That's big facts there. And that's all we got for this week, everyone. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Later, guys.
Take care.